complete major parts of this project so that Nigerians can start getting the benefit of all these spendings. Increased generation, improvement of grid generation capacity with the addition of 700 megawatts added to the national grid from the newly commissioned Zungeru hydropower plant. I can tell you that our generation was between 3,008 to 4,002, 4,003 when we resumed. But now, with the takeoff of the hydropower electric plant in Zungeru, we have added additional 700 megawatts. And I can tell you that, yes, thank you, in the last 3 years, we have hit the highest generation of 5,000 megawatts last week. So our target is, before the end of this year, we should graduate this to 6,000 megawatts, and the impact will be more felt. Thank you. Value chain segmental reforms. Transmission segment of the sector has been set on a path of optimal productivity with a regulatory order to unbundle Transmission Company of Nigeria from a single entity to independent systems provider. This is a big step in the right direction. It's been contemplated in the past, but nobody has been bold enough to take that step of splitting TCN into two. Some will just be asset management, they will be transmission service provider, while the lead operator of the national grid will be independent system and market operators. This will not only bring efficiency into the operation for expansion. So this process ensures a drive in the efficiency of the midstream of the Nigeria power sector value chain. Not just in the transmission segment, we have seen reforms in the generation segment too, which is from water, and the thermal power, which is from gas-fired plants. Hydro about 25% contribution, while thermal plant contributes about 75%. We are saying that the way to go for extension of energy access to our people and to put us on the pedestal to achieve our energy transition plan, we must bring in renewable energy. Because Nigeria is so blessed with all forms of renewable energy. Talk of solar, we have one of the best solar lake. Talk of dams, we have many large dams, and we have over 340 small dams that can give us some reasonable capacity of power generation across the length and breadth of Nigeria, basically along the middle belt and the southwest of Nigeria. Over 27 of them have been developed, and we are going to develop them into an hydroelectric power. That is water. They talk about wind. We have very good desert wind along the Sahel, and we have effective offshore wind along the coastal states in Nigeria. When you are going to Europe, before you land in Germany, you land in Holland, Spain, Italy, or wherever, you see wind farms across. Our wind effectiveness is as good as theirs. So talk about Lagos, talk about Ogun, talk about Ondo, Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Cross River. The 9 coastal states can benefit from this. And the creation of the coastal road will give it major leverage. So I think some of these steps we take by Mr. President, they are well thought out, and they will impact on multiple sectors of the economy. People can be looking at the coastal road alone as transportation access. It has assets for power to develop wind energy along the coastal road for the 9 states of the country. So that's one of the reforms that we are having in the generation space. We are discussing with some investors now that will establish utilities scale solar sources of energy that we can actually connect to the grid so that we can improve our energy mix from water and gas to water, gas, and renewable. Thank you. So, as it is today, we are using the solar home systems in a lot of our rural areas. Over 3 million households have benefited from this. And we have mini and microgrids for our select communities, and we are planning this for our educational institutions and health institutions. Our federal universities, our teaching hospitals, they can be taken off the grid because of the importance that we attach to them. Thank you very much. So, to round up, in the distribution sector, we are looking at reforms. And we have seen now that with what we did to date, we have seen the vibrancy of the sector now. The national awareness our policies have created, the national consciousness our programs have ignited. The discourse needs to be restructured along state lines, in line with the granting of autonomy to the states. We have discourse today that are covering up to 6 to 7 states. They cannot be effective as we want them. Yes, if I pick a particular disco, if I do disco, that's IBEDC. They cover part of Ogun, entire of Oyo, Osun, Kwara, part of Ekiti, Kogi, and Niger State. What kind of effectiveness are we expecting from such a disco? There must be responsibility along state lines. We must be able to unbundle them. And at the same time, create a franchise agreement. If a particular disco is not interested in a particular state, we have small discos that are ready with their investment capital to take over those states and improve infrastructure in those states. And they will agree on how they're going to share royalties or franchise fees. So those are the kind of reforms that we are introducing to our discourse. The same thing with the capital, which I will talk about in 1 minute. So we have now seen the improved responsiveness on the part of discourse. Now, before there's a downtime, they will tell you, oh, expect downtime at this time. When there is a power outage for too long, they will apologize. Were they doing all this before? So these are the kind of vibrancy that we are bringing onto the system so that everybody will be able to participate to ensure that we achieve where we are going. So the distribution segment of the sector have been incentivized to guarantee improved service level for the band A customers with introduction of cost-reflective tariffs, a key liquidity conditions suitable for driving investments, and improved monitoring and enforcement of service delivery by the discos with necessary sanctions set in place for early operators. On this band A stuff, we didn't just decide to segment the customers. What we were convinced about was that it will be difficult for you to attack the entire infrastructure 100% and provide uninterrupted supply to 100% of Nigeria. But we must start from somewhere. And those that we started with are those we believe have infrastructures that are good enough to supply minimum of 20 hours of electricity to households and businesses. I would say, let's start with them and let them pay something that is close to cost-reflective tariff. So there is commercial pricing. Because any business where there is no site to recover costs or make markup, in no time the business will stop. We all know. So the idea is, with time, almost all the infrastructures will be upgraded to that same level of band A by God's grace. And the government will now decide, oh, this is the portion of subsidy that I can afford to pay. But we know that subsidy of over 3 trillion naira is practically impossible for government to pay. And the non-funding of past subsidies is what led us to accumulation of debts, which we are grappling with today. So Nigerians must have that faith in us. We must have that trust that whatever we are doing it in their own interests. At least we are also electricity consumers. So the traction on energy transition, $550 million Nigeria electrification plan, which has bridged the energy access deficit by providing electricity to over 1.1 million households, medium and small scale enterprises, education and healthcare facilities, in unserved and underserved rural communities. I've talked about this in terms of the mini-grid and microgrid. Therefore, investment. Catalyzing investment in the sector, with the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority launching a $500 million initiative, Renewables Investment Platform for Limitless Energy, RIPPLE, in November 2023, dedicated to the development, investment, and operation of renewable energy projects across the entire value chain. Additional investment catalyzed into the sector with the finalization of World Bank distributed access through renewable energy scale-up. There's $750 million facility to increase access to electricity for 2.5 million people through the deployment of solar home systems and mini-grids to households, MSMEs, throughout Nigeria, educational and health facilities. These are investment flows into the country. We are beginning to see some progress from the outcome of the reform process, a key achievement of the administration in the last 1 year. However, we will not relent until we have a resilient and efficient electricity sector that meets the needs of all Nigerians. To achieve this, the Ministry of Power, under my leadership, has been engaging key sector stakeholders, industry experts, development partners, and civil society groups on the way forward to achieve a viable and bankable Nigerian electricity supply industry. Some of the key interventions we will be exploring going forward include introduction of an organic, strategic, suitable, and well-structured capitalization into the sector for sustained capitalization of Nigeria's energy supply industry. This industry needs recapitalization. One of the bases for failure of the past privatization project was inadequate capital. Most of the social companies did not have adequate capital. The acquisition capital they introduced, they even borrowed from banks. But when you want to have a stable sector, you must have 3 types of capital. Beyond acquisition capital, there must be restitution capital. The capital that you need to bring up your facilities and infrastructure to a level that will be able to service the industry. Then, thirdly, you need what is called expansion or investment capital. Yes, all these companies do not have this magnitude of capital. So we are going to look at the sector and determine the minimum capital for a generating company, for the transmission company, and for all distribution companies, so that we will not be in all this financial mess. We know that there will be resistance because corruption will always fight back. Once you notice improvement in the power sector, there will be lots of resistance. People that believe that they are thriving when the sector is not performing. And this is what they have done to past administrations that did not make them succeed. But this one, we are determined to face them. We are determined to make sure this sector works. So we are enforcing a data-driven decision-making process through proper data, centralization and management, capacity building of industry enablers, and active stakeholder engagement for improved universal access and industry reliability. We are also adopting further blended finance to catalyze investment in the sector to realize the Nigeria Energy Transition Plan for leveraging a diversified mix of energy sources, especially renewable energy sources, to achieve climate resilience, low carbon emission, and energy transition. So that by year 2060, we are achieving our zero carbon emission. Then by year 2030, there is a medium-term target which says we must grow our energy generating output to a minimum of 30,000 by year 2030, out of which 30% of it must come from renewable energy sources like wind, solar, small hydro, and possibly biomass. Introduction of an integrated and multifaceted approach to bridging skill gaps in the sector through a comprehensive skill assessment and training needs framework with emphasis on gender equality, innovation, and research and development initiative to improve the sector's enabling environment. This is one of the issues why we must exercise caution in the transition to state electricity sector. Promoting investment and public-private partnerships to source new investment geared towards ensuring transmission and distribution network enhancement, coupled with a pricing framework that guarantees return on investment for investors to ensure efficient power delivery across the nation. Regulatory framework to address outstanding obligations and to prevent future liabilities from crystallizing through enforcement of contract sanctity. We know there will be proposed new amendment to the Act as we journey through this transition, which is why a phased approach is more preferable. Let some states start this implementation. Let us learn from their mistakes so that further autonomy we are granting will have incorporated some of these learning points in the transition order. Active support to sub-national governments to have a holistic view and implementation approach ahead of declaration of an electricity market, and consumer empowerment through improved communication strategies to enhance public knowledge and communication channels between industry stakeholders and consumers to ensure clear and transparent information flow. The journey ahead will not be without its challenges. However, I believe a reliable and sustainable power sector is the cornerstone of a thriving Nigeria, and I am confident that by working together, we can overcome the challenges ahead and achieve our desire for a wholly energized nation. So we call upon the different stakeholders to play their part. Nobody promised us the path will be smooth. Nobody told us it will not be rough. When you start with the form, of course there will be a lot of resistance, but we are also resilient. We will weather the storm, and we're going to stabilize this sector and take the sector to the El Dorado. So, to the public sector players,
and overall prosperity. We also heard from Section 1, from Panel 1, that for us to export, we need to manufacture, industrialize, and add value to our raw materials. And for you to industrialize, you need power. So there's no need to emphasize that because it's taken for granted. Without without energy, you don't industrialize. And so, this session, I'll be inviting panelists starting from Malik was a presidential candidate under the Young People's Party in the 2023 election. And he is a nuclear energy expert and has accomplished a lot and has a nuclear energy deployed in over 18 countries and constructed over 300 megawatts of solar projects in Africa. In Nigeria, he has also developed a lot of captive and invariant power that for the health sector and the industry in over 20 sites in Nigeria. Mr. Malik, you had the minister mention a little bit about government policy and renewable energy. Do you think government's effort and initiative is enough to drive Nigerian investment?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's great to see that the APC has been able to invite an opposition member from the last election to come and be part of this august occasion. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to do this and I commend the party in opening this up to people. I'm not your traditional power person. I've been involved in the industry on the renewable side of it since 2007. I was the Undersecretary for Renewable Energy and Sustainable Development at the United Nations for Rio. And then I developed my own energy projects using some of the technology I learned while I was in the racing industry in Formula 1. And in that we used energy recovery systems. In trying to understand where Nigeria is today, we need to understand what the energy mix is all about, and we do not have a complete energy mix. This administration is new, so we do not blame this administration for where we are today. With the Fashola administration, with the Buhari administration under Fashola, 14 of us signed up for renewable energy projects, around 100 megawatts each. I was a little bit adventurous and decided that the Northeast was where I wanted to focus my attention. And if you realize what's going on in the renewable energy sector, it is the fastest growing sector globally. It beats the oil and gas sector, it beats everything else. Nigeria is a little bit behind, but it's not in a position to be able to be effective because the legislation is not there to allow renewable energy to thrive. You heard Mr. Aminu Nyako talk about his farm. It was my company that put that 5 megawatts into his farm, and that logistics that that company is enjoying today is due to renewable energy and renewable energy alone. Even though it's less than 12 kilometers away from the Yola Disco, the Yola Disco cannot provide him enough energy. In fact, we're producing, as he said, about 70% of the power that the Northeast is requiring for 4 states. We also have been, I'm really impressed by the way this administration has tried to take the renewable energy sector forward, but it has not looked at those of us that have invested heavily in this sector. It took me 7 years, 7 hard-working years to get a generation license from NERC to be able to build a 100 megawatt storage and solar project in Yola. I started this in 2016 and finally got the license in October of 2023. Now, I'm bringing my own investment. I'm not asking the government for investment. We brought in about $100 million to be able to do this project. But $100 million doesn't wait 7 years. We've lost 3 investment groups just trying to get here. We bought land in Katsina to build a second one. That's going to be something of another headache for 7 years. But I hope, listening to the minister, that will not be a problem. We've also embedded power in some of the biggest and trying times in Nigeria during the COVID era. We put power into 20 primary health facilities in Ondo State, especially in Iwokoda. We did power into the Edo State in Benin for the COVID center. And we found that there's this natural pushback for people to get involved in the renewable energy sector because the word solar has been bastardized by some of the issues that we've experienced from previous administrations where the power was not delivered. Renewable energy is not a bad word. Nigeria can really multiply its power from the 4 megawatts it has right now and probably double that in the next 24 months. Now, I can say this because I can tell you in Africa, I'm the only one who's built up to 1 gigawatt. That's 1,000 megawatts of power on this continent. And I'm proudly Nigerian and proud to say that to everyone of you here, that it is possible. It is very possible to do this. It needs a willing government. It needs a people that rely on our natural abilities. Now, the minister said that in Korea, 113 or 113 megawatts of power was delivered. And he said the Korean government pushed companies like LG to develop this power. A prophet is never welcome in his own village in Africa because I've been trying, God knows how long now, and nobody has taken us seriously. However, in countries like Turkey, we have a factory under construction. We're the biggest African country to build a power plant in China. We are also developing a renewable energy plant in South Africa. But to be able to bring this technology into Nigeria, it is almost impossible. It is impossible to be, I mean, in fact, it's actually an honor to meet the minister. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to meet him, and also the ability to meet the SA to the president on power resources. But the enabling environment for us to fix power in Nigeria is just not there. And we need to be a bit bold, we need to be resilient, we need to be able to think a little bit clearer. Captive power will change everything in Nigeria. The grid is a one spinal element. At any time we don't have gas, it will fall down. Anytime there is a problem, it will fall down. The power in Nigeria is generated in the south and is pushed to the north. If we want equity in Nigeria, we must generate power for the north and for this country from the north and push it down either through that grid or embed power in those northern states. As Aminu said earlier on, the northern states relied on agro, and the agricultural development of Nigeria is one of the biggest things we can do to improve this country. And I'm begging on the chairman to please encourage people within the party that have the opportunity to be able to reach out to people like us to come and help deliver power because of the expertise we've had. And to the chairman, Olga from another party, we rely on you today. APC is in power. This is my country. This is my president at this present point in time. And the minister is my minister. It is very important that we rely on them to look at people like us, not necessarily to look out. We have built things in this country. We have expertise. We have the required investment to make Nigeria great. But unless we have these kind of fora, it will be almost impossible to have met the honorable gentleman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to, the next question will go to Chief Sunday Oduto, who is a lawyer and energy expert and the Executive Director, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, and spokesman for the 11 districts. Mr. Chief Oduto, you have the minister. I want you to tell us what you think needs to be done differently from what the minister said to improve the energy sector.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, everybody in this room belongs to one school or the other. What everybody, including myself, what we need is electricity. We can talk it cheap. I've been picking for the disco since 2013. I've been part of this journey. I came from England as part of the privatization, and I've seen it all. Even at the time, I've been told in different TV studios, the discos are not performing. Let them take the license away. Sometimes some of the investors even have me to go and defend the fact that they should not take the license away. I said, if you perform, nobody will take your license. And at a point, some licenses were taken away. But if I ask you the question today, those licenses that were taken away, those disposed, are they doing better than they were doing before? The answer is no. So why are we not doing better? We have simply failed this nation. We as operators, we have failed. From the government side, we have failed. From the Nigerians ourselves, the customers, the consumers, we have failed. And I'll take it one by one. Government, let me start with government. You cannot have a good power sector in any country whenever you have policy inconsistencies. I have witnessed 3 types of making policies, and I have seen it all without sense of modesty. You cannot, you have to have definitive policy and say this is what we are doing, follow it through, and ensure there is no corruption. We are a corrupt nation. Let's tell the truth to ourselves. We love money. We like to take something for what we do, wherever we do it. We need to detach ourselves and love this nation. This is the first time I will see a president who takes very bold decision without looking back. I've been abused every day. I don't know whether people in his media team are aware of that. And even a few weeks ago, the Honorable Minister made a statement which I think was the right statement. All he said was, people should learn to manage energy. The next thing, they started abusing him. So I went back to the media. I'm not a spokesman, but I went back. I said, I want to repeat what the minister said. What he said is the right thing. Manage energy. And I give people examples of what I've witnessed. I'll give you maybe 3 all over the country. There's a place in Kano State called Bombay. In 2016, and I go around the whole country. Next week I'll be in Jos. I go to every single state of this nation to work. In 2016, in Kano, a very rich man was complaining to us that the meter was too fast. So I went there to investigate. He had meter. Well, we found out that in that mansion, somewhere downstairs, his children were actually inviting so many people from outside to come and do the ironing in his house. I didn't know. And when you have like 10 irons coming from outside, your bill will go up and you have to pay your bill. In Transamadi, I witnessed a similar thing. That's in Port Harcourt. What happened in Nigeria is, one, we want good things. We are not ready to pay for good things. We like things free of charge. Even when I took this job, I came from England to take this job, my friends were asking me, some in Yoruba, they will say, show never means, are you getting something extra? They want you to make something extra on top of your salary. We cannot build a nation like that. What we should do is pay people well, motivate them well, but let us agree on zero tolerance for corruption. Corruption begins with even procurement. And I'm happy a speaker in the first session said, when you are just awarding contracts that have no direct impact, it will not help anybody. And that same thing happens in the power sector. 2 days ago, some people were protesting against the Honorable Minister at the TCN. Now, the steps that they are taking now, in my opinion, are good steps. This is the only way to go. Break up the TCN, as they've done that now into 2. Later, it should even be more. Let let us have a performing nation. You can only have electricity when you determine certain things. Number one, what is the cost of production? Treat electricity the way you treat Coca-Cola or Fanta. Once we all know the cost of production, then we talk about the selling price. You cannot continue to undersell a product and you expect that that product will be available in this country. It will not happen. That's what we've been doing for 60 years. Number two, once we determine the cost.
1 more minute, please.
Yes, sir. Once we determine the cost, like the point issue, Band A. Band A are people who are rich, because people that have access to power today are just about 15 to 60% of our customers. But who are the people protesting? Poor people. Poor people fighting for a rich man in Asokoro and Maitama will buy. I mean, I can't understand it. But anyway, the point I'm making is all of us need to agree that for this thing to be available, there has to be alignment. The minister told very well, the only thing I didn't hear him say is alignment. You have to align the value chain. If you are generating 10,000 megawatts, you must be able to transmit 10,000 megawatts, you must be able to distribute 10,000 megawatts. That's 10. What Nigeria do? They say 40,000. Our chairman, sir, I don't know how you came about. You mentioned one figure, but I listened to every word. You were talking and just said 40,000 transmission. Whoever gave you that figure, they are lying to you, sir. Sir, they are lying to you. They are talking like the transmission company of Nigeria can transmit 14,000 megawatts. No. Let us use the right figure. Let us agree on what the way forward. Let us do the right thing for Nigeria. Let us work on how to make things happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You may address the audience to know that I chair the National Energy Master Plan. I'm involved in the energy sector, a member of the Potential Tax Team on Power. And so I'm very, very conversant with all the issues. But this is a forum intended to interrogate what we've been doing in the past, to see whether we are achieving the outcome that we expect from the world. And so he had mentioned about the energy conservation and the energy efficiency, which is driven by economic consideration. If you suddenly find out that you are paying more, you'll be more cautious in how you spend energy to reduce your cost, to bring kind of discipline in your how you spend your money. So now let me go to the lady. I have to struggle to get the pronounce the name. Mrs. Ola Oluvehie. Good. Thank you so much. I want you to please address this forum, this gathering, about how you think government can increase performance and monitoring mechanism in the system to ensure that all the actors in the sector, starting from the generation to the transmission to the distribution, are up to date and are held accountable for every action. Is there any performance monitoring mechanism put in place by government?
Good afternoon. Thank you, sir. I'll just stand on existing protocols. It's Mrs. Oluvehie, and I'm the special advisor to the president. I know it's a difficult one to pronounce, but I came by that name by, when Nigeria was open to many people. A Dutchman came here and taught in the 70s at ABU, so that's how I have that name. That's my father's name. How can we improve performance and monitoring? One of the initiatives that we've been dealing with, I'll come to the issues that have been highlighted, and the Honorable Minister has pretty much covered everything around the issues of the past and what this administration is trying to do to resolve and move us forward. I think one of the key indices that you'll have to measure going forward isn't how much generation capacity you've added onto your grid. It isn't even how much wheeling capacity you're able to move through the grid. But it's really, at the end of the day, how much are we growing our per capita consumption? Because there is a direct correlation between higher per capita consumption of energy and economic performance. And if the objective, you always have to focus on what your outcome is. If the outcome is to accelerate economic growth, achieve double-digit economic growth that we've talked about, and some of them in the Renewed Hope agenda, that there is only one way to do that, and you have to accelerate and double your per capita consumption. We've seen a strong correlation between those. The data just speaks for itself. So if you're going to do that, then you need to deploy technology and you need to be able to collect data. Part of the challenges that we have today is that we do not have the ability to even know where electricity is being lost, where we should channel our investment and our policies in terms of where our areas of focus should be. Should we focus on rural electrification, or should we prioritize productive use of energy, particularly large-scale energy? We talked about South Korea and the Asian economies. You'll find that the way they developed a lot of their own and how they were able to increase electrification was by focusing on productive use of energy. What are the manufacturing sites and the economic clusters and the industrial clusters and manufacturing clusters? How do we make sure that those are energized and productive so that people then have higher incomes and can consume more energy in their own household and can afford to do so? So it's making sure that you deploy the technology that allows you to monitor that performance, drive your investments and your policy in the direction that you've clearly articulated, and there's enough technology. The gentleman at the end of the panel who was talking about renewable energy. There's so much technology now out there, and that's one of the initiatives of the Presidential Metering Initiative. It's going beyond just deploying meters, and it's, my office is the secretariat for that initiative, chaired by the Honorable Minister, and there are a number of us who are there. And it's to make sure that you say, at the end of this, does a customer know, first of all, let's start with the customer, do they know how much they're consuming and how much they should be paying for? Can we channel our investment? Can we make sure that NERC has the data to collect from the end user performance and make sure that the electricity that is being delivered, is it 15 hours, is it how many kilowatt hours, are we able to pay for it, are we able to assure ourselves of the revenue from the different bands? Can we target subsidies smartly to the people who are poor and vulnerable, so that we stop subsidizing people who are in Ikoyi and Asokoro, and make sure that it's actually the people who need the government support that get it? It's technology that's going to help you do that.
Yeah, is there a program for community awareness?
Yes, so you'll find out that we've done quite a bit. So we've been very judicious about engaging around major initiatives. So when we talked about the power sector liquidity issues, right? So it's not just the 14, we have 14 gigawatts on grid capacity, 14 gigawatts installed. Can't really, our technical capacity on the transmission side is 8, but really we've not really talked more than 5. Distribution capacity has been stuck at around 4 gigawatts for the last 10 years. So what we've been doing as an administration is basically articulating that problem and saying, and whether it's through press briefings, ministerial briefings, when we make major policy changes, including tariff increases for people who have higher capacity to pay, is to make sure that we engage members of the public. We have but the minister alluded to several engagement stakeholder engagement sessions that he has. We do that as well from the presidency side to make sure that we are supporting every initiative with the right communication, identifying the stakeholders that need to be carried along, and making sure they understand the rationale behind the policy, how we intend to monitor, and what our intended outcomes are.
Okay, thank you. Let me get to the Honourable Minister and ask him to address 2 issues. First is the capacity of the workforce. Over the years, we saw people pass through ECN to NEPA, to PSN, to TCN, and then with all the training centers across the country, in Osogbo, in Lagos, in Surulere, Adelabu, and all over. And of recent, we suddenly found out that even among the districts, we haven't really had the people. I want to see what is the program of ensuring that we are getting the equipment, that we have the human beings really who are skilled and to run them and maintain them.
Thank you very much. Before I go ahead to address the issue, let me thank Doctor and the school spokesperson. I've listened to them a couple of times on the TV, and I quite aligned myself with some of the propositions that brought up. And I want to thank the APC Professionals Forum for this event. I'm also meeting them for the first time, and I believe from here we'll exchange contacts and we'll be ready to push to move the sector forward. Doctor has raised so many points about
the way to go, which is the renewable energy. If you want to establish the conventional power generating plants today, be it hydro, be it thermal plant, minimum of 36 to 72 months, I'm telling you, is between 3 to 6 years, because they will need to manufacture the turbines afresh, and it takes 18 months to 24 months for a single turbine. So to achieve a fast turnaround in the sector, sincerely, renewable energy is the way to go. Within 12 to 24 months, you can ramp up output. And I'm also happy to announce that what was lacking before, which is the enabling legislation and supportive policy, which frustrated the doctor from getting a license for 7 years. It started 2016, and I'm happy that he got it during our administration, 2023 October. Am I right? So that's to show you that this government is doing things differently. Enabling legislation. Our model is more of distributed power model, apart from the centralized national grid, which can be very fragile. And the legislation is supporting it, now granting powers to sub-national governments to play into it. So when we have investors like the doctor who want to bring in renewable energy, whichever state you want to go to, once there is regulatory autonomy, the state will grant you the license. You don't even need the NAC again. You understand? I'm sorry to cut you short, but I want us to remain focused so that we get a bit of what we're here.
Okay.
You recall that last week or thereabout this week, Total Energy gave one of the reasons for relocating to Angola as lack of capacity of the human beings. Yeah? So that's what they reported.
I will address the issue of human capacity now.
Yes, I want you to please tell us what is government, your own ministry's focus on ensuring that you have human beings to run the sector.
Okay, thank you very much. One of the bigger problems we have in the industry is the inadequate human capacity. And we know the origin of this. Majority of the personnel running the power operators today, be it GENCO, be it the transmission company, or the DISCO, they were all trained by the old NEPA, by the old PHCN, all the heads of DISCO. The successor companies have not done enough when it comes to training of personnel and developing human capacity. The National Power Training Institute, nothing that we have there, they have not done anything to improve the facilities of that particular institution. So what we are doing now, number one, to focus on the institution. That's the National Power Training Institute. And we know that they have offices across Nigeria, both in the hydro power capacity area, in the Middle Belt, and the Niger Delta, where we have gas power plants. We are going to improve the capacity of NAPTI in terms of infrastructure and the academic personnel of NAPTI. We are working on this, and our budget is reflecting that. Number two is collaboration. We also want to collaborate with the power sector operators so that there will be certification of the operators. We need to bring on new talents, new trainees, so that as the old hands are retiring, there is a succession plan across the power sector value chain.
Is there any policy that compels these schools?
Yes.
To send these people for training?
For training. Not just for training, there is required certification level that we are setting for personnel, not just of these schools alone, or even transmission companies and the district and the generation companies. We will come up with that policy that will state that before you become or come up to this particular level in the hierarchy of the DISCO or the TRANCO or the GENCO, you must have this kind of certification. There are even input courses that you need to do on employment by any DISCO or the transmission or generating company. So we're coming up to that. The collaboration is also very key because
a lot of the technology we use today, we are imported technologies. So there must be technology transfer and hand-holding by whoever is the contractor that is establishing a particular, that is building a particular generating plant. There must be a sign-off on the training strategy for the people that will operate it, people that will maintain it, and people that will operate it. The same for transmission.
If that policy is a public domain that requires local content that compares them to ensure that happens.
Yes, we come up with policy that will compare them like that.
Okay, the policy is in the works.
Yeah, the works.
Okay, thank you. Let me get back to essay on energy for her to share her thoughts about integrating gas supply into our thermal energy. You had the Honorable Minister say that 75% of our energy comes from thermal. And thermal is going to be powered by gas. So I want her to share with us government policy on integrating gas towards our, especially in the area that the gas is abundant. Please, what is government policy on that?
Thank you. Just to talk, I'll go back to how Total is actually going to play a key role in that. We've had several reviews of our policy over the last 20 years. One of the comments that Mr. Priyan was referring to in that unfortunate release was the fact that it took us 20-something years to pass a Petroleum Industry Act. And in that time, we lost investments, and they moved elsewhere because capital will flow to where things are transparent, clear. It is not to speak to the human capacity. After all, some of these countries have been here for, Total has been in Nigeria for almost 70 years. So if there was no capacity here, how would they be able to build the sort of world-class organizations that they've been able to build? I think the comment was really around the fact that there has been a period in our past that we were not clear and transparent about our direction of travel. That has changed in this administration. So one of the first 4 directives that the President signed to also address this issue of speed was to make sure that we are able to leverage our gas resources. We have we're the 10th largest holder of gas resources on the planet. A lot of that gas domestically is consumed in the power sector. It has been uneconomic to invest in the gas supply for a number of years. The PIA addressed some of the issues, but not completely. So one of the presidential directives that the President released recently addresses that final issue by issuing fiscal incentives for non-associated gas fields, because you need that for reliability of supply. If you don't improve your reliability of supply from non-associated gas fields, every time there is an incident in oil production, whether that's crude theft or many other things, there's a disruption in that supply, then you will continue to impact availability of gas into the power sector. So that presidential directive makes it attractive and also will improve the reliability of gas supply. The second issue that it deals with is making sure, there are other issues around contracting timelines that the Honorable Minister has alluded to, that are mainly an issue of our local environment, because we've introduced local content and that has some unintended consequences, which is